This is Masters of the Universe Revelation, a Netflix original series from the mind of Kevin Smith. Continuing the original series in, well, basically nowadays, taking that original aesthetic and inspiration for its characters and design, and adding a meaningful and really dark and emotionally gripping story to it. This is the first part of the adventure. There is going to be at least a second part that will continue it. And it's not something you would necessarily expect or think from the He-Man sort of universe, but it's actually quite wonderful. It's definitely quite a fascinating experience just in terms of it being something that's surprising. The biggest part of this is you're going to go in there thinking that this is a He-Man oriented show when it really isn't. It's about the supporting cast. It's about those characters. It is a bit about He-Man, and I don't want to spoil anything of the actual story, but it very much is about that the individuals around him finally getting their shot, their focus. And while initially you might be a little split on that, I think by the time that you get the full payoff of what this show introduces, you're going to have a really great time with it, and you will be stunned. Seriously, if you had like a close emotional connection to that original series growing up, you're going to be quite heartbroken because it really kind of tugs at those heartstrings a bit. It's not only brutal in terms of how things kind of pan out and where things go, and how ruthless it is, but also in terms of where the characters head. There's a certain dark event that happens that really splits up the group, and it's kind of one of those putting the band back together kind of shows, if that makes sense. Getting the individual, seeing where they're at, and seeing the growth in those characters. And I think it's really neat because they're dealing with the element of kind of the world really crashing down and or losing essence of the magic that really held the place together, if that makes sense, made this place so interesting and unique. And you have to kind of deal with that more, well, the characters do, and you deal with seeing that world kind of crumble and fall apart, and you're just kind of along for the ride, which is quite a interesting journey. And with that, we've got pretty great voice cast. It sounds fantastic. It looks cool. It's smooth. Got Mark Hamill there as Skeletor, and it's neat because it's not about their battle and Skeletor. Like it is about their battle, but it's not in the way that you think it is. And again, a few episodes in, I was like, oh, okay, this isn't quite what I was expecting, and then you get going further, and you're like, wow, this is actually top-notch quality stuff. This is really, really great. This is surprising. This is very well animated, and it's a great experience. Like, honestly, it looks beautiful. It's gorgeous. Every scene is filled to the brim with detail and quality, and it really is just a very well put together, kind of series. The episodes are really tight. They're precise in terms of the flow and the pacing of them. And then you get these really great looking backdrops, these great looking animations, epic action the whole time. But then you get to look at different characters and see their motivations and where they're headed and what they're thinking. I think that part of it is actually really quite interesting, at least to me, seeing the dynamic, how they take these maybe more simplistic sort of visions for these characters and they flip them around, or they do something different with it, or they add a level of maturity and growth to the individuals, throughout this series. And again, it is definitely got some like shocking moments to it that I think will absolutely blow away fans. You will just be like, what? Now, at the same time, I would have liked this to be a little bit more kind of like male focused, if that makes sense. I know that sounds odd, but when you think of like She-Ra, I love the She-Ra series, but that's very, sort of female focused, if that makes sense. Whereas He-Man, I was kind of hoping that that would be the case, but it's not quite, if that makes sense. They do it wonderfully, though. I don't have any issues with it, but still, it would have been cool to have a more motivational guy type thing for some of the younger male stuff like that. That's kind of what I was expecting, but it's still seriously a fantastic show. That's the biggest part I want to get across. There is this is a very, very well done show. It is beautifully set up, the structuring, the acts, the voice work, characters, how they interact with each other, the action, the combat, the use of magic, the exploration of this place and where they go and the things they see is very, very well done. I was just kind of blown away by it. Once I was finished with it, I was left silenced by what had just like occurred. Like, if you go to watch it and you get to the point that I'm talking about, you're gonna be like, whoa, that was crazy. And it's just going to be nuts and leave a long lasting mark on you. Is the biggest thing for it. What I really want to say is just it's a great series. It's way better than I anticipated being, and it's kind of really drawn me into that sort of universe. It's really really interesting. I should also mention, I did put in She-Ra there for details, but it's nothing like that show that Netflix had. This is very much along the vein of that original, like Masters of the Universe style. In terms of look, thematically, and the characters present. So keep in mind that it is very much focused on that sort of experience and providing that in the modern era and sort of improving some of the details quite a bit. And like I said, the voice work really nice. It matches everything quite well. The pacing is tight and structured, and it flows very easily. It's an easy watch to the point where I was really wanting more, but I also just love the shock value of how everything sort of wrapped up and kind of came to be. It's just really neat, this battle and this war for Eternia, as it kind of goes into I guess, the final battle between the two of them. And I think the dynamics of where things head are just gonna mostly absolutely shock people. It is a radical evolution while still being at pace with the originals. You get, kind of the epic journey, seeing Castle Grey Skull, the battle against Skeletor. Like, it opens up with an intense sort of situation. And I think it's got kind of all the classic characters, and it also does some fun things with some of the enemies too, because there is a bit of a change up of time and how these characters interact with each other. And you see that over the course of the show. As like I said, your heroes, they're in very different places, getting the band back together, but you also see that there's a shift with the gap that happens in regards to the villains, the ones that kind of oppose the heroes. They have major changes as well, and that also impacts where certain things head and how conflicts happen throughout the course of the series. But anyways, it's great. It's well done. I had a lot of fun watching it. I think fans of the original show will love it. They'll be heartbroken by it. They will maybe even shed a tear or two, but I think they will really love the maturity and the focus on this one, because I think it takes that original style of Masters of the Universe, and it just propels it beautifully into the, well, not modern era, but just in terms of like where cartoons are at these days. I think it takes a nice mature turn for it, and I think it's better off for that. So I'd give it a 9 out of 10. You can read my full review in the description below. Be sure to like the video, support people, check it out, and if you have questions and stuff about Masters of the Revelation, let me know. But I am very excited about hopefully jumping into part 2 somewhere down the road, because this was a pleasure to watch and enjoy.